I went to school here. I've been mugged in school.
Oh, wow. Can I ask how much you pay for rent?
I pay $4,300, my girlfriend and I.
When everybody's from a different place, it makes you feel like everybody's from the same place in a way.
Hello everybody 皆さんこんにちはこんばんはおはようございますアメリカ出身のザック・パールです今日はニューヨークに住むのはどんな感じかについてのインタビューを行いました生活費の問題やニューヨークで何が経験できるかについて話していきますではご覧になりましょう Can I just get your name and your age if you don't mind?
I'm Pam Walter. I live in New York City. I am 70. I just turned 70 this year.
I did not think you were so you look younger
Yeah, right.
You
sure.
look
I know you say that to everyone, but
I don't
that's very nice.
I promise I don't
I haven't gotten past turning 40, so it's hard. Yeah.
Well, I think you're doing good.
Okay.
But, so I'm just asking people about what it's like to live in New York. So what do you think are maybe some pros and cons of living in the city?
Well, I've been here since before I was born. Mm-hmm. My mother was here. Her mother was here. So I think it's an amazing place to live. I think it is so challenging. It's visually very chaotic. It's also can be very intimate. Mm-hmm. And I think many people have a very hard time living here where you're working, and then you go home and you just have enough to pay rent and a little bit to eat, that sort of thing.
Yeah, so you think like paycheck to paycheck?
Yeah, I think a lot of it. It's too expensive, which is sad because I love a mixed community. Like people are just so varied in ages and their interests and all that. But I am a true New Yorker. I love New York. I love traveling around the world, but I love coming home and just walking the streets, and I never know what I'm going to see. I go to other places and they're so homogenized. They're so much alike, So in New York, it's crazy people, it's sane people, it's funny people, and very sad. But I think it's a really interesting place to grow up and to live.
Have you ever struggled personally living here?
Yes, I've lived paycheck to paycheck, and I've lived without a paycheck. It's not easy, but I think it's helpful when you have friends, and you try to do the best you can. So now I'm more in a position where I can maybe help somebody else with their rent. So, it all comes together.
So can I just get your name and your age?
My name is Bernardo Manzalillo. Mm-hmm. I'm 22 years old.
All right, so today I'm talking about like what it's like living in the city with people. So just to start, could you tell me kind of about your living situation?
Yeah. So I just moved to Harlem recently. Mm-hmm. I used to live down in Tribeca with my parents. I actually moved here from Brazil.
Okay.
So moved here, lived with my parents for a little bit, went to school. Now I'm in Harlem with a friend from school and then just this guy we found on Facebook from Florida.
Okay. So you have 2 roommates?
Yeah, 2 roommates.
Okay. And can I ask what the cost of your apartment is, what the rent is?
So the total rent is $3,900, which is not bad for the area. It's a pretty spacey apartment. And then we split it up based on room sizes. I have the biggest room, so I pay $1,350 plus utilities, Wi-Fi, all of that.
I guess what are the pros and cons for you of living in New York City?
I think the pro is there's so much to do here. There's you can wake up one day and decide you want to pick up a new hobby, and you can find like a group or a collective or whatever to just go and do that hobby the same day that you decided you wanted to do it. So that's very cool. And I'm an artist, I do film, so it's great for connections, great for job opportunities. I think also I've learned more about what I want to do by having so many options and feeling like I can explore different things. The cons, definitely top right now is the cost of living. I think right now I'm pretty comfortable, but I do have 2 jobs plus all of the freelance gigs that I get in film. And that sustains me, plus my parents helping me, but it's kind of like a lot. And you know, I think it used to be much more affordable. That was the big promise. And it's a little bit disappointing to see that go away. And I think in some ways, you know, there's so many people, it can feel like kind of confining sometimes. It can feel almost kind of lonely with how much you see people all the time, but you don't really know any of them. So, yeah.
Do you think it's easy or difficult to make friends in New York City?
You know, when I first moved here, it was a little bit hard, but I was also like 14. You know, any teenager has a hard time. And then I went to school upstate, so that was like a little bit easier because it was kind of like a small town. Coming back to the city, I think definitely one of the things that I've realized in the past like month of being back here is that it's not as easy to make friends as it was back in school. But I think also you do have so many people you can meet that I feel like you just know you have so many options that everybody gets a little bit picky. You know, there's so many people to connect with, and you end up with this feeling of like, okay, I want to choose the right one.
Could you just tell me your name and your age?
Alex, and my age is 38.
38. All right, nice to meet you, Alex.
You too.
I'm Zach.
Nice to meet you.
So I'm just asking people about what it's like living in New York. Have you always lived in New York?
No, I'm from Virginia. I moved to New York in 2012, and then I left for 5 years in 2018, but I've been back for 2 years, so it's like 9 years total.
Why did you move to New York initially and also this time?
I think initially, I mean, it was half for work, but it was half I just knew I wanted to be here. But I think everyone should live here at some point in their life if they feel drawn to it.
What kind of experience do you think New York offers to people?
There's like a collective energy. Like you see people live outside. You go other places, you don't, you know, get to experience other people's lives, eavesdrop, like bump into strangers, like meet people. That just doesn't happen. It's just a special place, and obviously it's just huge. Like anything that you're interested in, they have pretty much.
About your living situation.
Yes.
So do you live in an apartment here?
Yeah. Yep.
Can I ask how much you pay for rent?
I pay $4,300. My girlfriend and I. Yeah.
So that's split between you both.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you feel like it's a struggle to live here?
Not anymore. It was when I first moved here. And I knew that was going to be the case. You know, I was living paycheck to paycheck, and it's much more affordable now. I mean, just because of where I'm at in my career, and having, you know, a partner to split costs with. But I can see for a lot of people that it's not.
Do you feel like New York is a safe place to live?
I do actually, but there are places where some neighborhoods where all of a sudden, or it's too dark, or I'm too tired, and I think, oh my gosh, what am I doing here? Sometimes I even begin to, like, if I really feel threatened, I think it's much safer than it used to be, though. But I know in times when I went to school here, I've been mugged in school.
Oh, wow.
You know, so it's like you never know. You know, you have to be alert. I think in New York, at least if you're hurt, someone will stop and say, "Can I help you? Are you all right?" They'll help you stand up or something like that.
Yeah.
Where I've been in places where they look at you like, "Should I touch you? Should I help you?" I think New York is safer now than it was, you know, like 50 years ago even.
Yeah.
So, and I've been living in the village on about 45 years or so. It's now very, very upscale in so many places. And I liked it when it was more of a mix of artists on the street. And, just you could talk to strangers on the street as well.
Yeah.
So
I'm a little shocked to hear that you got mugged. Do you think that kind of thing would happen now?
school?
In school, yeah.
you know, some schools are better than others. And I was, what was I, 13 years old, 14 years old. So, but it was in the early 70s. It was a different time. These things can happen, I guess, anywhere, you know. I've been traveling everywhere around the world. And I find New York, I do feel safer. There's always someone I think I can say, oh, like a neighbor or something. You hear a funny sound, you say, are you guys okay? You know, and they do the same for me. So community is where you make it. You know, I think you can make it.
I want to ask you a little bit about multiculturalism in New York City. You know, New York City is considered one of the most multicultural places in the world. Like over 800 languages are spoken here. And you having come from Brazil, what kind of multicultural experiences do you think you've had here?
I think one, I've found a lot of Brazilian people to connect with, but also I've met so many people from so many different places at this point that it's just, it kind of like, when everybody's from a different place, it makes you feel like everybody's from the same place in a way. Like all of my friends are somewhat connected to some culture abroad. And I think that gives us all a sense of belonging to the same group, if that makes sense. When everybody speaks a different language at home, we all end up speaking English together. And I think it's like that effort to meet at a place where we can all understand each other is really interesting. It's what brings that multicultural feeling to the city.
So, what kind of attitudes do you feel like the people or the New Yorkers around you have?
You know, I've had to kind of teach my mom to learn this. New Yorkers can be very warm and they can be very fun to be around, but that's when they let themselves be open to it. I do think that everybody's moving so fast, everybody's kind of in this like, don't talk to me, don't bother me kind of attitude. But also, I think that's kind of like what makes New York special. Everybody creates their own world. I just think it can create this sort of like unapproachable feeling to New Yorkers. But I think that's also, it really depends on the area you're from, because I found like, especially going to Harlem, you know, a lot of little communities form around like people from different countries. And I think in those spaces you can experience the warmer and more welcoming side of New York, definitely.
Hi, man. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, I really appreciate it.
Of course.
皆さん最後までご覧になってくれてありがとうございました。この動画が面白いと思ったなら、これからアメリカの文化や日本に対するインタビューをどんどんアップしていきますので、チャンネル登録をよろしくお願いします。では、次の動画でまた会いましょう。See you again!